We must act to prohibit.
That metaphor, it's prohibited on today's flight.
City Ordinance 132R prohibits the begging.
Until it was prohibited by the Germans.
The son of Sam law prohibit convicted criminals.
And prune practices that ought to be prohibited.
And more importantly, what occurs, what takes place, that prohibits the crystallization in the cell.
Because it's so prohibitively expensive to own.
You know, because common decency prohibits us, we can't.
Arms and finance civil war. We must act to prohibit the direct or indirect import of all rough diamonds.
It's like killing anything in his mouth, but he doesn't actually give it the power to kill him.
Well, that metaphor, it's prohibited on today's flight.
Flight attendants prepare for takeoff, please.
Doesn't play any musical instrument.
City Ordinance 132R prohibits the begging.
How do you know so much about city ordinances?
Marines kept paying them, as they should. Until it was prohibited by the Germans.
You want a donation to your fund?
We're in negotiations, that's correct.
But doesn't the son of Sam law prohibit convicted criminals from profiting from their crimes?
Doesn't apply to me.
What can be perfected and prune practices that ought to be prohibited.
Osmotic movement of the cryoprotectant protectant through the body. And more importantly, what occurs, what takes place, that prohibits the crystallization in the cell. But the first time we get any hint of it in human...
Industry standard is pretty much that you would rent the equipment because it's so prohibitively expensive to own it.
Okay, I said no problem.
Okay, I get. We can't do that, guys, you know, because common decency prohibits us, we can't. It's not cool.
Well, she said it was cool.
Yeah.
Not be confiscated. I do not know the answer.
Article 47. No, you don't know anything.
I'm familiar with the Hague.
None of our camps has ever been bombed.
You can't bomb prison camps. It's forbidden by the Geneva Convention.
Will we ever...
No clear social consensus as to what should be done. At the same time, the cost of care for the chronic patient has become prohibitive. This is particularly the case with the long-term...
Mr. Adams, you're being charged with possession of a prohibited weapon.
Did you get my message?
Swam. Do you know that you are in an area prohibited to all but members of the forces of His Imperial Majesty, Kaiser Wilhelm II?
As such, the publication of this information is directly prohibited by the Espionage Act, Title 18 of the United States Code, Section...
My southern brothers were prohibited from using it by the Spanish devils.
Now, you could argue that the shooting of the dog was merely an instance of malum prohibitum, but the shooting of a senator is indubitably an instance of malum.
The Federal Vocational Rehabilitation Act of 1973 prohibits discrimination against otherwise qualified handicapped persons.
But they don't want to publish it.
Well, they think it's too expensive. They think it's economically prohibitive.
8 years of our lives.
More data. You need to see into a black hole. The laws of nature prohibit a naked singularity.
Romney, is that true?
CCTV proved it wasn't your fault. We prohibited from busking for 6 months.
I said, where's Bob?
Do you want to thank me for coming down here?
The Democratic Party will adopt a formal rules change to prohibit any segregated delegation in the future. This is a major victory.
Senator Humphrey, God did not
touch it.
Have you handled the bunny?
No, my name protocol prohibits from doing so, sir. That's your jurisdiction.
I want to see him. That is absolutely prohibited during the ceremony. But I can shoot you! Open that damn...
Petition for permanent custody.
I will rule against it.
State Code 143.56 prohibits you from making a determination in a permanent custody case without a hearing.
You are wearing my paper.
Very traumatic process to the body. Our policy clearly prohibits more than one in a 6-month period.
The size of my little fingernail.
You're talking 6 carats, sir. More probably.
Oh, would that be prohibited, do you think?
15,000.
How
catastrophic for many
I'm a lawyer.
people.
I'm legally...
No.
Listen to me. I am legally prohibited from disclosing anything.
Someone leaked my last deposition.
Excuse me. You see, you can't actually do that.
The law of relativity prohibits faster than light travel.
Relativity, yes, we can't.
Pre-1976 events. Also, due to prohibitive costs, this court has decided that Austria provides an inadequate force.
Should make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of...
Stop. Regurgitate.
These slippery floors alone prohibit such a demonstration, sir.
Chief Sunday, haven't you had enough trouble in your career?
I am therefore going to recommend to the proper authorities that you be declared a prohibited immigrant and that you be deported from this island.
Is whether or not to repeal a 4-month-old ordinance which prohibits job and housing discrimination against homosexuals.
In anticipation of the vote, the gay community has stated...
A prospective recipient can be placed on a donor list. Transplant surgery is very expensive. In most cases, prohibitively so.
Yo, we got insurance. I mean, major medical. He's
I mean, the spirit from mistake. But your work. Technically, the sentence forbids you from preaching anything at all. I listen and obey.